everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're coming at you with our top 10 fantasy football quarterback rankings. We just finished our 20 to 11 rankings, so definitely go check out that episode if you haven't already. We'll have a lot of honorable mentions too to talk about in that one, so go check that out. But today, we're talking about the big dogs, the big guns, the guys that are going to win you the leagues. They're going to be the high-powered 40-point options, some spike weeks. It's really excited to talk about these guys. So how are you, Josh? It's a rainy, chill day over here in Utah. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man, and I'm just antsy to get forward to fantasy season. The time we gotta pass the time somehow. So we're doing fantasy content in May. So I hope all you freaks, all you nerds out there are loving this. But yeah, we gotta pass the time till football season. It's kind of that awkward in between time where we just don't know. There's just not a lot to do. There's not a lot of football going on. I mean, OTA started for a bunch of teams this week. But man, it's just like it's hard. I'm twiddling my thumbs waiting for football to come back. And this definitely helps pass the time.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to just get all of our fantasy rankings out there. And I guess we'll start it off right now just with our number 10 quarterback, our QB 10, Caleb Williams, rookie, first overall pick. It's going to be a very fun discussion here. He's my QB 11. He stores his QB 9. He cracks his top 10. He's the ADP consensus QB 15 right now. So he's going for a steal. It will definitely be higher on him, and he's coming in as our QB 10 consensusly. So excited for him. He's coming into the best situation a first overall picks ever gone into. He's got DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Romo Dunze to play backyard football with for the next decade. It's just so fun, man. It's really so exciting. I think he's going to be putting up some numbers, putting up a lot of touchdowns at the very least because all those receivers are just so quarterback friendly. Keenan can get open so easily. DJ Moore can take a screen to the house on any given play. Odunze can come down with about any, 50-50 ball. It's about 70-30 for Odunze. So it's going to be electric. I think Caleb's just a great option in fantasy. He's got a nice floor. He's a really electric runner. Like if he wanted to, he could take over games as a runner. He really can. He can have some big flash long runs. So I'm excited for him. We both are clearly with this really high ranking compared to his ADP, and we're definitely drafting him.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that I have him over you. But I'm happy for that. I do want to be very high on Caleb Williams from a fantasy aspect because you said, he goes into the perfect situation. You mentioned all those receivers. I mean, what a awesome, running back core with DeAndre Swift, who's very quarterback friendly, and Khalil Herbert, and then even Cole Kmet, who's just a safety net blanket, and Gerald Everett, who's a yak guy at tight end. So I mean, he's literally got the perfect situation. The offense is going to revolve around Caleb Williams, from whether it's RPOs, whether designed runs. I mean, he's going to get his own, and he's going to be electric in fantasy, man. I feel like he could definitely be a league winner. And at his current ADP at 15, that is an absolute steal. I know it's tough to like want to bank on rookies, but I mean, Caleb Williams is one of the most electric, exciting, passers we've ever seen and runner coming out of college. And he just goes into the perfect situation, man. So it's really hard to bet against him, and I'm betting way more for him. So I mean, any of his over unders, I'm hitting his over every week because he's gonna be electric, and I mean, like I said, the offense will revolve around Caleb. There'll be a lot of RPOs. I feel like there'll be a lot of design runs. I feel like he'll get his around the end zone. I don't feel like they're gonna like the running backs are gonna score many touchdowns. I feel like it's gonna be Caleb Williams either throwing or running a touchdown, and I could see 30 plus touchdowns from him in his rookie season easily.
100%. I project 27 to 30, right around that range. It's really exciting. ESPN only projects him at 23. Maybe that is why his ADP is so low, just because, it's a rookie. No one's really going to put crazy projections out there for him. So he is just a steal. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. is going as a wide receiver 9 right now in drafts because of all the rookie hype. And I mean, that's scary. Like that's actually pretty scary compared to this quarterback 15 position for, this generational beautiful Mahomes like quarterback prospect. I think it's just a steal. I think people are a little bit scared because of that rookie label, but he just isn't a rookie. He doesn't carry himself like a rookie. He's coming into a situation that no rookie should go into. So I think he's just going to be different, and he will be a fantasy league winner. And like you said, we loved a lot of the quarterbacks we talked about in our last episode, quarterbacks 20 to 11. Like get Matthew Stafford and Caleb Williams, and you're definitely going to hit on one of those. Just Jared Goff, Caleb Williams. It's a beautiful quarterback duo, and you can just stream them. So I think that's just a beautiful plan. Caleb Williams is going to be awesome, outperform really any expectations currently, and I'm so excited for him.
100%. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun. I mean, and if we're banking on offensive rookie of the year, if we're just gonna throw that out there, put all I mean, it's obvious he's the first overall pick, but I mean, it's so obvious, man. I mean, he goes into a far superior situation than any other first round, pick should or could or ever has gone into. So I mean, he's gonna tear it up, man. And I'll throw it out there. I mean, I think the ceiling is could crack top five. I really do. I think the ceiling is top five this year.
Yeah, 100%. I really think he can get upwards of 30 touchdowns with that core. It'll be maybe a slower start because there is so many new pieces, a new offensive coordinator he's going to be working with that will be that different, skill level that he's playing against. So it will be an interesting transition, maybe a slower start, but by playoff time, by fantasy playoffs, like you said, he is going to be a league winner. So we're drafting Caleb Williams. We're really, really excited about him. And with that, let's move on to our QB9 consensus. Uh, he comes in at my QB9. Dak comes in at your QB11, and he's the consensus QB9 right now. So he's coming in as our QB9 right on the dot of consensus. And, I like Dak. Last year, he had a pretty electric season, almost an MVP type of season. He was just putting up crazy numbers with CD. I feel like he's a name that kind of gets faded just because of, his age, maybe. He's not the most exciting option, maybe because he doesn't have a great offensive mind, play caller, but at the end of the day, he will get those 30 touchdowns. I'm sure just him and CD, they were both playing true MVP football last year. So, I think he's just going to be a good pick and just, a steady pick where he's going just because of you're guaranteed to get a lot of touchdowns.
100%. I mean, Dak Prescott, I mean, it's kind of people kind of get like a sour, I feel like, taste of Dak Prescott because when it comes like playoff time in actual real football, the Cowboys just never show up. And then all of Dak Prescott's hype just dies and he's the guy that can't get it done. But I mean, if we're talking about regular season Dak Prescott, two of the last 3 years, he's thrown for over 4,500 yards and 30 plus touchdowns. I mean, so last year, 4,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, 2021, 40, 44, 49, and 37 touchdowns. And then that's to go along with he's not a bad runner either. He's going to get you those few hundred yards. He didn't score a lot. I mean, he scores the 1 to 2 touchdowns per year on the ground, but still, he does have that upside with, getting you a little bit of rushing yards and, maybe a couple touchdowns on the ground. But yeah, I mean, tremendous, tremendous fantasy quarterback. And, another guy that's not going to go very high in your fantasy drafts, man. I mean, you can get him towards the middle to late rounds just because that's what happens with Dak Prescott. Every year, people just kind of fade him out and they get excited on, your more Caleb Williams and everything. But Dak Prescott's a guy that can throw for 30 plus touchdowns every year, no doubt. And especially with honestly a not very good run game, and they don't have Tony Pollard. They're bringing back old ass Zeke and Rico Dodell. They just don't have a very good running game. So, I expect them just to be, Dak and CD just to be taking over games like they usually do.
Yeah, we could not put him past his ADP just because last year he finished as the QB2. Just silly. He averaged 22.2 points. He was the true league winner last year, really. If you got Dak in the last round of your draft, you were probably sitting the prettiest in anyone in your league. He was a true league winner. He was putting up numbers. I expect 30, 31 touchdowns this year, 4,000 yards. I think that's almost his floor. I think he's a 30 touchdown, 4,000 yard guy just because of how much they throw the ball. He's going to attack CD every single play of the game, every game. So yeah, especially if you get CD Lamb, target Dak Prescott, that stack will be lethal again. I don't see why it wouldn't be. And yeah, I think the playoff questions are definitely there with Dak. I have them myself as well. But in fantasy football, I think he's just going to be a great value. If you find yourself not taking one of the top guys, just get Dak Prescott for, last year's QB2 at QB9. That's just silly.
Tremendous, tremendous value with Dak Prescott every year.
All right. And with that, let's move on to our QB8, a very interesting conversation. Someone shooting up draft boards right now. It's Anthony Richardson for the Indy Colts. He comes in at my QB8. He stores his QB13, and he's the consensus ADP QB6. So people are drafting this guy on underdog right now as a QB6, just shooting for that upside, shooting for the stars with Anthony Richardson. And that's what he is, man. He is all the upside in the world, just a robot, a freak, with all the tools in the world. And he's in a fun situation with Shane Steichen, the quarterback whisperer, coaching him up. He's got all the weapons. Michael Pittman. He's now got AD Mitchell. Jonathan Taylor, obviously a decent offensive line. So if he stays healthy, which is the big if. He will be a hit in fantasy. He's gonna have those big boom weeks with his rushing. Like he had that beautiful rush touchdown against the Texans last year. That's the thing, though, is every single game he played in last year, he was electric, but he got hurt in every single game. He left injured because he gets hit, man. He takes hits, and it is scary. I don't want to see him take hits because I think this guy is just a beautiful passer. I think he's a very underrated passer of the football, and I wouldn't mind never seeing him run the ball again just because of how good I think he is as a passer. So he will have to play a lot safer. It's a very polarizing and scary pick, knowing that he hasn't finished an NFL game healthy. It's scary, but the upside's too immense to just not talk about.
Yeah, I mean, really, this is probably the most upside pick in the entire fantasy football draft, to be honest with you. And to be honest with you, I'm going to pump my brakes on this one. I'm a little bit more scared off of Anthony Richardson just because I don't feel like I got a big enough sample size to really, rank him as a top 10. I mean, obviously, he comes in at quarterback 13 for me. And I think quarterback six is, I honestly think it's crazy. I mean, but you do got the sweaty people that are, you got to bank on upside. And this guy with the absolute rocket of an arm and the rushing upside, it's tremendous. I mean, and last year, obviously, small sample size, he threw for 577 yards, 3 touchdowns to 1 interception. But really, where his value came was in the rushing, where he ran, in his few games that he played for 136 yards and 4 touchdowns to go along with 2 fumbles, which he'll clean that up. But you almost like to see him run a little bit less, but he is such a big physical guy that is so fast, and he broke at the combine almost like every quarterback record ever for athleticism. And so you like to see this guy, and he has the capability of doing that, but he's just got to tone it down a little bit. But I mean, the upside is there. I'm going to be the guy to pump my brakes on him a little bit just because I don't feel like I got to see enough of him, and I am a little scared off of that. But I mean, if you're one of the people to draft him high and take that risk, it could be, high. I mean, it's a high risk but high reward with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, it's really hard to rank him. Like you said, those sweaty underdog drafts is where he is going as a QB6. So that will bring his ADP up. In your, more casual leagues with your friends, he probably won't be going as a QB6. That's why I really like our spot of QB8, kind of a middle ground. He probably will be going around here in most drafts. So, I think it's appropriate value last year. He finished with 20.4 points in the few games that he did play. And like I said, he got hurt in every single game that he played. So he racks up points even when leaving the games early. He can rack up those points just because of the running ability. He's gonna run for a touchdown most likely, like every other game. He's a very electric athlete, and they'll use him in really fun ways, as Steichen always does. So yeah, very polarizing. It's hard. Our ranking's a little bit behind the consensus ADP, but we both like him. We like the upside. We wouldn't fault anyone for taking him at QB5 even because that upside is immense. So yeah, really love the player, love the prospect. I'm excited to watch him. So excited for him to get healthy because he's so fun.
Yeah, I mean, and to go along like what you said, Shane Steichen is the quarterback whisperer. I mean, he was there for Justin Herbert's rookie breakout season. Then he's been with Jalen Hurts ever since, and Jalen Hurts has been a tremendous fantasy quarterback. So he does go to the right system, has the right coach, and they invested heavily upon weapons with re-signing Michael Pittman, obviously this year, and adding Adonai Mitchell. So he's got the weapons to be successful.
Absolutely. And with that, let's go on to QB7, my favorite quarterback in the NFL. So excited to talk about him. Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love. He comes in at my QB7. He stores as QB8. He's a consensus ADP QB8, and he's the NFL Seekers QB7 with the rankings merged. And man, so excited for him. So excited for another season of Jordan Love after a very, very electric season last year. He started off a little bit slow in his first year starting, and really by the end of the season, just everything clicked. He was, in my opinion, I truly think he was the best processing quarterback in the NFL. I thought he was on the same page as LaFleur, and he was literally just dicing every single defense up by the end of the year. He outplayed and outsmarted Dan Quinn even in a playoff game in Dallas. He's just really awesome, man. I'm so optimistic for the future. I think he's gonna just pick up right where he left off with the production. He's a touchdown machine. I almost want to have a hot take saying that he's like, I mean, definitely last year he was better than Mahomes, but I could see him being better than Patrick Mahomes in fantasy again this year just because he's so consistent. It felt like he was by the end of the season he was getting 2-3 touchdowns a week, and then the Packers are putting up numbers. They're bringing in Josh Jacobs just for bring the upside of the offense even higher. So I'm so excited for him, man. I love his young receivers. I love Jaden Reed. I think when Christian Watson's healthy, they have a pretty special connection. So really optimistic for Jordan Love. One of my favorite players just in the NFL really to watch. And the way he carries himself, it's just so confident and cool. It exudes onto his teammates, and his teammates play really confident, and it showed with the Packers last year. And, I think he's getting 32, 33 touchdowns this year, around 4,000. I think he's going to have an awesome year.
100%. And yeah, like last year, he was a league winner. After that, Packers Chargers game, it was just incredible. It was just Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur's just get right game. It's where everything on all cylinders clicked. It's where all the young weapons just really came together. And this is such a young team with so much upside, which just makes Jordan Love so, so exciting because it's really the second year where this chemistry is just really going to build on top of what they did last year. And that playoff run where they were able to actually make it to the playoffs when their chances were almost like nothing during the middle of the season to actually make it. It was incredible. But I mean, you've got one of the most, no one, I wouldn't say they have any star wide receivers, but they have one of the most young, fun, and upcoming wide receiver cores. I mean, just throwing out names like, Wicks and Bo and sorry, not Bo Melton, but
Yeah, Bo Melton.
oh yeah, sorry, it is Bo Melton. Max Melton's the other brother.
Yeah. Hopefully
But
he's
yeah,
not
it's
throwing to Max Melton this year.
no, no, no. But, it's just and Christian Watson, if he can stay healthy. And it's these fun young receivers that just really haven't even hit their peak yet, but the chemistry is just so good with Jordan Love. And like you said, he's got the mind of Matt LaFleur. He's got Matt LaFleur. And this is just the next great Green Bay Packers quarterback. It's Brett Favre, on to Aaron Rodgers, on to Jordan Love. So it's just the cycle continues, the coaching staff is there, and this team is going to be one of the most young, polarizing teams. So buy in on the Jordan Love stock, man, because it will pay off. And like you said, it's feels like it's 2 to 3 touchdowns a game. And I kind of expect him, to maybe even be a little bit more lethal on the ground this year. I mean, he still had 17 carries, or sorry, 50 carries for 247 yards and 4 touchdowns. I could see those even going up. I could see a little bit more RPO and, a little bit more excitement in that offense. And so, the sky's the limit for Jordan Love, and I'm buying in all his stock I can.
Yeah, going as a QB8, he finishes the QB4 last year, and he had a really rough start. Especially fantasy wise, he had a really shaky, inconsistent start. Like you said, he kind of struggled against the Broncos even, and struggled against the Bears early on. And then that Chargers game, something happened where this whole Packers team clicked perfectly, and they just didn't look back the rest of the season. They were just on a mission to make the playoffs, and it was really just as the biggest Jordan Love guy ever, I didn't think it was possible last year. So really awesome what they did. I think they're going to just pick up right where they left off with the momentum. I think he's going to finish around the QB 5 to 7 where I have him ranked. So I just think he's going to be great value. Going to have a similar season production wise to last year. He had 32 touchdowns, 11 picks. That's just great football. ESPN projects him to get 26 touchdowns and 13 picks this year. So they expect him to fall off a cliff, I guess. But I don't really expect him to. I think he's just going to be the same exact player. He started off really bad last year. So I think he's going to be right there, picking up where he left off at the end of the season. He's going to be a top 5 quarterback. So definitely grab him.
100%. Yeah, can't wait for Jordan Love. Can't wait to see the whole Packers offense in general.
Absolutely. And with that, let's move on to QB6, Joseph Burrow from the Cincinnati Bengals. He comes in at my QB6. Stores is QB7. The consensus ADP QB7 comes in at the NFL Seekers QB6. Really excited for him to come back healthy. He's going to have T. Higgins for one last ride. Definitely his last ride in Cincy for sure. All the signs are kind of indicating that. But yeah, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, guaranteed 12, 15 touchdowns of just electric plays. He's gonna be awesome. He averages a lot of points, throws a lot of touchdowns. Honestly, it's kind of hard to give a case for Joe Burrow. I guess the only reason that people would be scared of him is the injury. He's come off a few injuries now. That wrist injury is kind of like a nerve injury, and that's always scary. You never know when that will fully heal. It could always come back anytime. So it's a little bit scary, but I'm buying in on the weapons. Obviously, the offense. Zach Taylor's a genius, so I love the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow, just, one of the top, coolest quarterbacks in the NFL. Just he clicks on all cylinders, man. And yeah, the thing is, it does scare you because, he's pretty much batting 50 for 50 on health in his 4-year career. 2 years he's had season-ending injuries. The other 2 years he's been healthy. He has been absolutely electric. I mean, so, you get his rookie season 2020. it was a disaster. There was no offensive line, there was no blocking. He ends up going out, but 2021, 2022, Joe Burrow goes for 4,600 yards, 34 touchdowns to go along with 118 rushing yards and two touchdowns to follow that up with a back-to-back performance in 2022 of 4,400 yard performance with 35 touchdowns and to go along with 257 rushing yards and five touchdowns on the ground. That's the kind of stats I like. That's a 40 touchdown season from Joe Burrow, 4,600 all purpose yards. Electric wide receivers in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They add Eric all this offseason, which would be a fun tight end weapon. Um, and you lose Joe Mixon, but I feel like that's just going to mean Joe Burrow's going to pass more. So, I can see some positive passing regression. I feel like, the offense revolves around Joe Burrow. He's probably going to throw the ball 500-600 times this year. And, when Joe Burrow's good and healthy, that's equals 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns. So Joe Burrow, obviously Joe Cool, he's awesome, man. You can't hate the dude. He's in a good offense. He's a good quarterback. Just bearing health is the only scarce with Joe Burrow, or he'd probably be a top three quarterback in fantasy every single year.
Exactly. That's what it is. Last year, he went as a top 3 to 5 quarterback. He's going as a QB7. So if he's healthy, if he has a fully healthy season, he probably will be the best value of any quarterback in your drafts. If you're doing underdog drafts and you draft a bunch of Joe Burrow, you're probably going to be printing money if he stays healthy for a full season because that injury is being factored into his QB7 ADP right now. That kind of indicates like a 29-30 touchdown season. I think Joe Burrow's, like you said, capable of 35 touchdowns. He's a really good runner. I think they're going to really predicate the offense to just quick game, getting the ball out of Joe's hands really quick. And he's got, electric running backs like Zach Moss and Chase Brown who can take it to the house. Joe Mixon didn't really have that gear in him last year. So, yeah, there is some upside here. Obviously, the receiving core that everyone knows about, there's some upside with Jermaine Burton even. So it's exciting. I think he's just a great value. We had to have him over his ADP just because it is kind of silly where he's going. And, I'm not really too worried about the injury, but if you are, stay away.
100%. But yeah, Joe Cool, pretty much the, reincarnation of Joe Montana. So, just hopefully we can see a healthy Joe Burrow going forward.
Yeah, and obviously he didn't finish the season healthy, but he had 22.2 points last year before going down with injury. So that's very solid. That's what you want to see. And with that, we'll move on to our QB5, who actually averaged less than Burrow last year at 21.8 points per game. But that is the CJ Stroud, the absolute revelation young GOAT. He comes in at my QB5. He's the consensus ADP QB5, and he comes in at Stores' QB2. Stores is just riding that Stroud train all off season. If the Texans win a Super Bowl, Stores will be printing money. So that's very exciting. I'll let you talk about Stroud first, since this is the first guy all episode that you've been higher on me on.
Uh, just I blush, man. I'm blushing when we talk about CJ Stroud, but just my QB1 coming out of the draft last year, just one of the coolest, cleanest, pocket passing. Everything was just perfect. Everything was perfect with CJ Stroud. And what do the Texans do this offseason? They go out and they help him even more. They bring in a veteran presence like Stephon Diggs to add to an already stacked wide receiver core with Nico Collins and Tank Dell and Noah Brown and Dalton Schultz. They go and add Joe Mixon, who can be a very friendly guy through the air and a good pass blocker for CJ Stroud. It's just perfect. He gets to run it back with his offensive coordinator, who probably should have been poached for a head coaching job. Somehow he stays in Houston, kind of like the Ben Johnson situation with Bobby Slowick. And it's just perfect, man. If you're not banking on CJ Stroud to take a positive regression forward, then you're crazy. And obviously CJ Stroud probably would have broken every single rookie record there was if he didn't get hurt last year for those couple of games. But I mean, he's gonna what he was able to do in his rookie season should tell you something. He's gonna take another step forward. The team got better. He's gonna be more NFL ready. He gets a full off season with these incredible wide receivers to grow chemistry and be even more comfortable. He gets to, take his game to the next level with processing, in year two. And it's just I'm gonna say it, man. I think he will finish as a top two quarterback in fantasy football. And I think, with this receiving core, it's going to be hard for him to throw less than I'm gonna set the bar at 33 and a half touchdowns, man. And I'm gonna hit the over on that. I think that's his floor. I think he's that good. And with this receiving core, it's just gonna be impossible to stop. And I couldn't be more excited for it.
The situation around him is just messed up. He had 23 touchdowns to 5 picks last year. First of all, that's the MVP type numbers. If he would have finished the season, had a little bit more touchdowns, it's definitely an MVP type of season in his rookie year. He had 4,100 yards. I expect him to have exactly that this year. I think he'll have the exact same amount of yards. So I'd put him at 4,100 yards, but I agree. I think I'd put him at 30 touchdowns, maybe even more. Definitely, obviously, the upside for him more with the situation, with how young the situation is around him, with Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon injecting into the lineup. But Stephon Diggs is kind of a touchdown machine. So that's definitely some touchdowns you're bringing over from Buffalo to another AFC team here in Houston. So it's really, really exciting. The sky is the limit. He's going to be able to throw it up to Nico Collins like he was doing in that Colts game in week 18 and in the playoffs. He's going to be able to really have a good connection with Stephon Diggs in the intermediate game. He's going to have that nice slot deep threat and Tank Dell, who obviously CJ Stroud just loves. So it's so exciting, man. This is perfect. He's got Schultz and Cade Stover security blankets. It's so fun. This team is just literally too loaded. It's almost just silly. So the situation they put around Stroud, I like that you put him up at 2, and yeah, I like that we're putting him at his ADP. So we're definitely drafting the guy, and I think there's no way he doesn't improve drastically statistically next year.
Yeah, I mean, and people forget too, Tank Dell was out most of last season, so we didn't even have Tank Dell. It was really Nico Collins and Noah Brown. And you add a healthy Tank Dell back and Stephon Diggs, who should definitely have some positive regression from last year. But the team is just so stacked, man, and they're gonna be scoring touchdowns. And Bobby Slowick, he's gonna have CJ Stroud passing all over the field. So it's gonna be a beautiful sight to see. And you know, I love it, man. I think I'm gonna be higher on CJ Stroud than anyone.
Absolutely. I think you definitely will be with that QB2 ranking. So I love it. Love CJ Stroud. So excited to watch him. And with that, let's go into our QB4, the MVP, two-time MVP, the reigning MVP, Lamar Jackson. He comes in at my QB3, stores his QB4. He's a consensus QB4 right now, and he comes in at our NFL Seekers QB4. Super excited for another season of Lamar Jackson dominance, really. He's just so fun. If he's healthy, he's just an absolute juggernaut. And I'm a little bit scared that he's losing weight because I remember he gained weight and bulked up to kind of not get hurt and sustain the season, really. And he won an MVP because of it. But now he's going back down in weight. A little bit scary. I don't think he needs that because he's elusive. He's the most elusive quarterback in the NFL, even if he is, bulked up. So I don't think he needs to lose weight. I don't love it. A little bit scared he might miss some games, but averaging 23.2 points last year per game. He's getting Mark Andrews healthy back. He played a lot of games without Mark Andrews last year, and they don't really add too much to the receiving core. They replace Odell for Tez Walker, so that not too exciting at all. But Zay Flowers and Lamar definitely have a fun connection, and Mark Andrews is kind of that wide receiver one anyway in this scheme. So yeah, I'm just really excited for Lamar. Obviously, everyone knows the rushing upside is what excites you with Lamar. That's what you're getting Lamar for, and if you can get the fun Mark Andrews stack, that's another plus. But yeah, he had 5 touchdowns last year, 821 rushing yards. That's a big boost in fantasy. So definitely boosts him up with the rushing ability.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we're talking about a quarterback over his 6 seasons that has rushed for 5,258 yards. That's more than most running backs to go along with 29 touchdowns. And so, yes, Lamar Jackson is the best dual threat quarterback in the NFL. He had in 2019 and 2020 back-to-back seasons of 1,000 plus rushing yards with 7 touchdowns. It's insane. And so, I mean, yeah, you're banking on Lamar to be 1,000 yard rusher and to have 5 plus touchdowns for you and to go along. I mean, he's not gonna hit that 4,000 yards passing, but there is more value in the running because you're getting more points, per game, with the rushing. And he will throw touchdowns. He has a good, he has the weapons. I feel like they have a decent offensive line. They are the Ravens. They're gonna be tough. But yeah, I mean, Lamar Jackson, the rushing is just insane. I mean, it should almost be unfair that he gets to be listed as a quarterback for half of these games sometimes. But that's what you're taking advantage of, and you're really banking on, hopefully he's thrown for that, in the 3,000s, 32 to 3,500 yards to go along with 20 plus touchdowns. I don't know if he'll ever, go back to his 2019 season where he threw 36 touchdowns. But you're banking on those 22 to 25 touchdowns, 3,000 yards, 800 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, kind of what you're banking on, and you're happy. And and like you said, the losing the weight is weird. I'm sure he'll be faster and harder to tackle, but it is those durability concerns that have, hindered him in the past. So it is a little scary that he is trying to lose weight or
Yeah, he was
has.
available. He was available every single week last year for the first time in what felt like 3 years after, bulking up. And I thought that was huge to him winning MVP. So it is interesting that he's going back down in weight. But yeah, last year he had 24 touchdowns, 7 picks, 3,600 yards. I stated his rushing stats already. I think he, like you said, just kind of has around the same exact stats. Might have a few more rushing touchdowns. Actually, could see like 6 to 7 rushing touchdowns for him. I could see him having 3,500 passing yards, maybe 26 to 27 touchdowns. I could really see that type of season for him if he stays healthy for the full season. And the AFC North is kind of a juggernaut. There's going to be a lot of good defenses that he faces. Could be something that, plays into factor when you're drafting him or Mahomes. You kind of got to choose one of them. So it is interesting. But yeah, love Lamar, love the upside, the rushing you get every week. You're going to be confident that you're getting 23 points from Lamar every week.
100%.
All right, and with that, let's go to the other guy that's being drafted right next to Lamar. We'll talk about Patrick Mahomes, the Super Bowl champ. He comes in at my QB4. He stores his QB3, consensus QB3, and he's our NFL Seekers QB3. Love Mahomes. Don't really need to spurt out too much about Mahomes. Everyone knows he's the best quarterback we've ever seen. He's bringing in some more weapons in Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown. Don't know what's going on with Rashee Rice, but really doesn't matter too much when you do bring in those two solid receiving options. So I'm really excited for Mahomes there.
Yeah, we're definitely due. Obviously, Mahomes was a little frustrating for fantasy owners last year, as Dan witnessed. He called him the run first chief, but they will switch it up, and I feel like Mahomes is due for some positive regret or some positive, yeah, regression. Obviously 2022, he throws for 5,200 yards and to go along with 41 touchdowns. He loses 1,000 passing yards in 2023 with 4,100 yards and 27 touchdowns. But, bearing Rashee Rice suspension, you add Hollywood Brown, you add Xavier Worthy, the receiving core should get better. And they are the Chiefs, man. So it's just hard to ever bet against Patrick Mahomes. And, in 2023, he's definitely due for some positive regression with only 300. And, he ran for 389 yards, but he didn't even get a rushing touchdown to where 2022, he ran for 4 touchdowns. So he's due for some positivity in his stats, and I think we'll definitely see it this year. And it's the Chiefs, man. There's not much to talk about. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be at the top. Mahomes is going to be throwing touchdowns. It's just inevitable.
Yeah, this is kind of a funny one because he finishes the QB8 last year, and even with a guy like Patrick Mahomes who had a good season, top 10 quarterback finish last year, it's just obvious and clear, and I think it's consensus that he is going to improve. All of his stats will be, progressed for sure, like you said. And I think he was bad last year just because I drafted him and I got that Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes stack. That's the only reason he wasn't good. So I'll make sure to stay away from Mahomes for everyone else's sake this year. And yeah, like he had 27 touchdowns, 14 picks last year. You inject Hollywood and maybe Rashee Rice, maybe halfway through the season, whatever it is, and obviously Xavier Worthy. I think he's gonna have 33 touchdowns. That's what ESPN projects him to have. Fantasy Pros projects him at 32. Obviously, the upside for Patrick Mahomes is like 38, 40 touchdowns. The guy's a freak. So yeah, last year he had 334 fantasy points. Probably looking at around 380 this year. So a big boost up for Mahomes. Definitely comfortable where he's going, obviously, with our ranking. And yeah, really excited for him. It's kind of crazy that he's kind of it feels like he's got a big progression coming actually this year. It feels like he's going to improve a lot fantasy wise just because last year was so meh. It was really the lows were really low. The Chiefs didn't really need to pass the ball that much last year. Like, they really were the run first Chiefs, but it does feel like they're kind of changing a little bit, bringing in some more receiving weapons to change things up on that offense and make it harder to game plan for. So really excited for the Chiefs.
100%. Yeah, and just again, it's going to be positive regression. We're going to do everything in our power to keep Dan from drafting Mahomes because we do not need that luck this year for us Patrick Mahomes owners. Just to let you guys know, I do have him in our dynasty league, so we are definitely due for some positive regression.
Actually, that might just be a double curse. It might just be the NFL Seekers curse. I didn't even think about that.
We'll see. We'll see. Only time will tell. We'll wait till we'll be talking about this next May.
Yeah, we'll definitely stay tuned. I'll definitely keep you guys updated who I do draft in our league. But with that, we'll go into our QB2, Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts. He comes in at my QB2. He's the consensus ADP QB2, and he stores as QB5. Comes in as the NFL Seekers QB2, and I'm really excited about him as well. I feel like we had to put him and Josh Allen next to each other because of the rushing upside. He had 15 rushing touchdowns last year. That's so silly. That's more than most starting running backs if your name's not Raheem Mostert. So you definitely can bank on that. Obviously, Saquon Barkley's coming over, so it's really hard to rank and gauge and figure out exactly how you want to stat out the rushing touchdowns for this team. But at the same time, their offensive line's still just perfect. Even if they lose Jason Kelsey, it might still be the best in the NFL. They're going to be creating huge holes. Jalen Hurts will be running all over. So I think that rushing ability, the touchdowns that you're almost guaranteed from him each week, 15 touchdowns last year. That's almost a touchdown rushing per week, along with the touchdown passing. He had 23 passing touchdowns last year. So he's insane. He's really just a boost. He can have those big boom weeks with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith in there. So yeah, I love Jalen Hurts. I love the rushing you get. And it feels like he's kind of being faded because the season ended a little bit ugly last year. Obviously, with that playoff loss, there's some toxicity in the offense and just the coaching staff in general. So I think it'll be better. I think with a more steady defense this year, I think this Eagles team will be a little bit better, and maybe Saquon even helps them.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to judge for me with Jalen Hurts, but I mean, we're talking about a guy in his 4 seasons of playing football has ran for 41 touchdowns. He has averaged 10 touchdowns per season, and that's coming, with a terrible rookie season where he only ran for 3. So we've seen 10, 13, and 15 rushing touchdowns in the past 3 years from Jalen Hurts. The Philly special has been kind of unfair. It's just insane how they've been able to get to the 1 yard line. And if you were a fantasy owner of any Philadelphia Eagles running backs, you have been frustrated for the past 3 years with Jalen Hurts absolutely poaching all of them. But with that to say, he is just tremendously value in that aspect because if they're down at the goal line, you know exactly what they're going to do. Whether that changes with Saquon this year, no Jason Kelsey, it will be interesting. And I mean, it's been kind of nuts just how consistently they've been able to get to the 1 yard line and be able to do that play for Jalen Hurts to run. So it is kind of interesting. It's like you flip a coin, but I mean, the last 3 seasons, nothing has changed. So with expecting Philly specials to be as successful as they were the last 3 years, we'll see. But yeah, Jalen Hurts, man, he's fun. He's a fun quarterback. He's an incredible passer to go along with just incredible running upside. And he's got the receivers. He's got the line to do it. Saquon Barkley should add a really fun, dynamic aspect to the passing game, with screens and stuff, which should help out Jalen Hurts a lot. So it's going to be a super fun offense, excuse me, with just tremendous upside in those big, big boom weeks with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon.
Yep, he averaged 24.1 points last year, so you know that there will be those boom weeks. And he doesn't really have like the lowest floor either because of that rushing upside. So it is just a really nice pick. I love having Jalen Hurts. And that is interesting what you said. The tush push could be affected by Jason Kelsey leaving because he was so effective and just
Excuse
his.
me, I said Philly special, Dan. I feel like an idiot that you didn't correct me. Tush push, my
Well,
bad.
you can kind of call it the Philly special, I
It's
guess. The Philly special tush push.
what do they actually call us? The brotherly shove or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. Tush push, brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it. Excuse me for calling it the Philly special. It kind of feels like the Philly special because they're the only ones who do it at 100% successful rate.
Yep. At this point, it is the Philly special. That's why I didn't even really correct you. But yeah, I mean, that will be interesting because Saquon Barkley will probably pout if he doesn't get some goal line carries. So it will be interesting. Maybe I do like how you have Jalen Hurts a little bit behind ADP because I could see a regression. I really could. But at the same time, there's a nice floor there. He finished with 402 points last year, probably finishes 370 points this year. So there will be a regression for sure, but I don't think it'll be too drastic where you're really fading him. So love Jalen Hurts. Just love the rushing touchdowns you're going to get along with having AJ Brown and Devontae Smith to throw up touchdowns too. So with that, let's get on to our QB1. everyone knew who was going to be Josh Allen. This man is just a complete menace. He averaged 24 points last year. He comes in at my QB1. Stores' QB1 is the consensus QB1 for Dynasty, consensus QB1 for redraft. He's a consensus quarterback one for everything because he's just too electric. He's a cheat code. He's finished as a QB1 in fantasy for what, like 3, 4 years now in a row. I don't really expect that to ever change with his rushing upside, just the way he plays, the way he runs. He's always out on the field. He doesn't really need good receivers. He's still going to throw touchdowns. He's got Dalton Kincaid for the next decade to be his wide receiver one. So I love Josh Allen, love the rushing ability you're going to get. You can get 100 rushing yards a week with, being one of the most electric just passers of the football that we've really seen, one of the most strong, beautiful laser arms that we've seen. So I love Josh Allen. I could just sit here and blabber about him all day. I'm in love with him, but I'll let you talk about him.
Josh Allen is, excuse me, Josh Allen is our fantasy king. He is the robot of a quarterback. He is your built in a lab Madden, football player. And yeah, like when you think of the Buffalo Bills, you don't think of anything else but Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the Buffalo Bills. He does everything for this team. I mean, he ran for 500 yards and 15 touchdowns to go along with throwing for 4,300 yards and 30 touchdowns. And in the last, he's thrown for 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive seasons of 30 plus touchdowns. So you know what you're getting out of Josh Allen. He is a high upside player. He has those big giant boom weeks, and he's going to get it done, through the air and on the ground. And there's nothing teams can do about it because he is just a physical freak, and he's just bigger and better than everyone. And he's big enough to stay healthy throughout the seasons. And I am excited to see him without, the toxicity of Stephon Diggs. I hate Gabe Davis. So I am excited to see Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, added to this offense. I'm excited to see, even Ray Davis in the backfield. So I think this team is going to get better. I think the locker room's better. I think they got better heads on their shoulders. And, Josh Allen's going to do what Josh Allen does. And that's, beat the best fantasy quarterback there is, period.
Absolutely. And I think there's a real thing. The Bills roster isn't great, but it just doesn't matter because this guy is just such a juggernaut alien. Like this team finishes the second in the AFC conference last year. They were the second seed in the AFC last year when it was looking like they were going to miss the playoffs just, 5 weeks before the playoffs. And it was literally Josh Allen against the world because all of their good players were hurt. It was pretty impressive, especially with Stephon Diggs just acting like he didn't want to be there every single game. And he was still getting the job done, putting the team literally on his back. And it definitely translated to his 450 fantasy points, him putting the team on his back. And he was their RB1, their QB1, their receiver one. Damn near. It was just absurd what he did. So it will be interesting to see how it comes, into this new season. Maybe they just pound the rock with Ray Davis and James Cook, and especially the first half of the season, they don't get Josh Allen hit too much. I just kind of depends on how much they want Josh Allen to run the ball. That's really what it comes down to, because if they want, he could get over 15 touchdowns rushing each year. He had 15 last year. I could see him getting 17 if he plays the same brand of football this year, just because of the roster's kind of the same on the offensive side of the ball. So love Josh Allen. He's going to be a touchdown machine. He's the QB1. You don't really need to talk about it. He's going as QB1. I don't think anyone would argue it at all. I don't think anyone's really touching him as the QB1. And if someone is, then take advantage of it. If someone in your dynasty leagues valuing him as a QB2, take advantage of it and go get him because he's just absurd.
100%. Yeah. And I'm just having a nostalgic trip because, me and you come from the generation of, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Philip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, OG Aaron Rodgers. And it's just fun, man. It's just fun to see this new generation of quarterbacks with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love. It's just I'm having a nostalgic trip right now, man. Just it's crazy to see, I really feel like we've hit that next generation of elite quarterbacks, and it's just super fun. I mean, I remember one of my earliest memories of going on a family vacation, and Drew Brees was my quarterback in fantasy, man, and it was just electric. And now it's just, we're on to the next generation. It's crazy.
It is crazy. These are guys that our kids will be talking about, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. These are guys that could truly go down as the best ever. So it is really fun that we're witnessing them in their primes. We're going to be talking about them in fantasy for the next 10 years because they're not going away, not going anywhere. So yeah, really fun talking about these alien robot freaks. All of these guys have so much upside. It was really fun trying to rank them. It's really hard to differentiate all these guys. They're all in such good situations, such good cores around them to just pad the stats with touchdowns. So bet on your guy that you think is going to throw for the most touchdowns. That's really how I feel in fantasy, is just go for the guys that you think are just going to get a bunch of touchdowns. That's really how I feel. So I love it. Any exit hot takes or anything before we get out of here?
I mean, we got to have a Panthers one just laying on deck, right, man?
For a top 10 quarterback episode? I don't know.
I don't know. I'll screw it, but yeah, my hot take is CJ Stroud will finish as the quarterback 2 or 1. We'll end the show on that, baby. Give me the CJ Stroud stock.
All right, my hot take is Anthony Richardson ends as a QB2, and I'm gonna end the pod before I get hit.
Woo!
Before I get,
Gotta
that's
cool
hot.
down, baby. Oh my God. Like, share, subscribe, everything.
And the
You just
Colts
heard
finish
Dan
above
put
the
a
Texans in the AFC
ah!
South.
Oh my God. Oh my
That
God.
no, it's a little
Fire
bit too hot. We got
extinguisher.
to get out of here for sure. But yeah, definitely thank you for tuning in to the NFL Seekers podcast. Our running back rankings will be out next, so stay tuned. All of our fantasy rankings will be churning out over the summer, our deep dive series. So really excited. Stay tuned to the NFL Seekers podcast. Like, it really helps spread the video around. Comment, subscribe. Peace.
Peace.